It's allergy season, and that means the pollen is so bad here. My nose is tickling. I'm hoping to get through this without having to stop and blow my nose, but we will see. It is April. It is like mid April, and I am here to talk to you about my March reads. And March was a great reading month for me. I really did enjoy my experience reading, so I cannot wait to tell you all about the books that I did read in the month of March. So let's just get right into it. One of the reasons why March was just a great month is because it was my birthday month. And I had a great time celebrating it in a variety of ways. And some involved some literary celebrations, which I was really happy to participate in. So thank you guys for all that gave me a little birthday shout out and birthday love in the month of March. I appreciate it and received it, and you helped to make my month special. For those of you all who don't know me or are joining, this is your first time here, I just want to welcome you into this space. My name is Chantel-LaVonne, and I am an avid book reader who is reclaiming my love of books. I am pushing away kids. I am saying, honey, hold on. I am putting boundaries around my work so that I have time to enjoy one of my first loves, which is reading stories. So I just want to welcome you here. And for those of you all who are back with me, thank you so much. If you have not yet done so already, before we even get started, just click that subscribe button, or hit it, I should say, and hit the like button too, and also the bell. If you hit the bell, I just was taught that if you hit the bell and you click all, that means that every time I upload a video, it will come directly to you and you won't miss it. And I don't want you to miss it. So I'm going to jump in right into my books. Like I said, March was a really good reading month. I had a variety of different places and spaces and emotional spaces that these books took me. So the first one I want to talk about is Run by Ann Patchett. So this book I actually was supposed to finish, or was supposed to read in February. I started it, but I didn't finish it in February. But I did finish it in the month of March. I was not familiar with Ann Patchett until I went to Nashville to visit my mentor, and she took me to Ann Patchett's bookstore. And I'm going to leave the link for the bookstore. I cannot remember the name of it exactly. So, but it is a delightful bookstore. It is a bookstore for book lovers. It is so wonderful. Just everything about it. I literally could stay in there for hours, and we actually did, and just had a glorious time. One of the neat things about the bookstore is that if you buy a book, an Ann Patchett book from there, it will be a signed copy, which is really wonderful. So I have a signed copy here of Ann Patchett, and I was really excited to have that. I actually bought quite a few Ann Patchett books when I was there, and the first one that I read was not this one, but it was actually one of her nonfiction works, and it was a collection of essays, and I devoured that book, devoured it. I gave it to my sister, so I was trying to look around, like, where did I put this book? Because I wanted to talk about it a little bit here today, but then I remembered that I gave it to my sister. So I'm gonna like come back and talk about that because it was really so great, and it was really focused on like love, relationships, just growth, essays about that, and just beautifully well done. So that made turned me into an Ann Patchett fan. I literally read it from cover to cover on the plane ride from where I was in Nashville home, like all the travel journey. And for those of you all who know me, I love to read when I'm traveling, and it was just such a treat. But this is a novel, and it is set in modern times. It's set in Boston. It is about the Doyle family. You have the father, who his name is Barnard, and he is a former mayor of this Boston community and town, and he has adopted sons, Tip and Ted, Teddy and Tip. Yeah, Teddy and Tip. And they are African American young men who are, at the time of this novel, they are young men. But they also have another brother, the biological son of the father and their wife. At this time, the mother has been dead for quite some time. And we see that the father is political still. He's still like in the political throes, and he's a very ambitious father. He's a father that cares, and he's a father that wants the best for his sons. And he's worked hard to carve out a path for his sons to follow just to success. Like, look what I've done for you. Just walk this path and you're good. And as you probably can imagine, the sons did not want that for themselves. They want to follow and pursue other things. And so that's kind of the first bit of tension that we experience in this family. But the real tension kind of starts right also at the top of this novel with an accident. It's a snowy night, and there's a car accident that involves one of the sons, and it also involves an African American woman and her child, and which is a daughter. And from that point on, we begin to see the unraveling or untangling of truth. There's a ball of just deception and things that have gone on in this family, and things that were unknown to some but known to others, things that are hidden. And so this kind of little tangled ball starts to untangle itself, and we get to experience the impact that that has on these relationships. The relationship between the father and the sons, the relationship between the brothers, the relationship between the sons and their long lost mother, and the relationship between the boys, the father, and this woman and her daughter. What I really appreciated about this story that's just really focused on it's an intimate family drama story that also has themes that apply to so many things that people can relate to. I really appreciated the characterization in this. Like, the characters are so complete and complex and robust in that way that they are very interesting, very human, I would say. The characters are very human. And I also like the way in which she just uses command imagery. I could see every scene of this book. It was cinematic in that way. And it just made me, I was drawn into this book. So this was an experience where I wasn't reading like outside, like I am reading the story, but I was really drawn into the story, and I did like that. So I am a fan of Ann Patchett. I'm going to read more of her work and support her. And definitely every time I am in Nashville, and I've been back to Nashville since that first time, I always stop at this bookstore. So again, I will leave the link to that bookstore in the comments below for you to check out. Okay, the next book that I read or want to talk about is The Flea Palace by Elif Shafak. And this novel was one that was given to me in one of my book groups. And so I had no idea. I'd never heard of the author. I didn't know what it was about. And so it was like a lovely surprise. And I waited to read it in the month of March because I just wanted to almost like a gift, and you just don't know what's going to be in it. This novel takes place in Istanbul, in modern day Istanbul. But before we get to the modern story, the author actually starts off giving us context in two chapters. One is called Before, and then one is called Even Before. And I really liked how she framed and gave context to the story. This novel was written or published in 2002, and it was translated in English in 2004. And I think that the author who did the translation, did a good job of it. Basically, this is a story about place, I would say. This is a story about, place, physical place, and emotional place, and the emotions attached to physical place. You have this palace, which is called Bon Palace, which used to be, when it was back in the day, just this jewel of this neighborhood. We come to understand in the beginning, in those first two chapters, how this palace, which is an apartment building, how it came to be. And it came to be through a lot of controversy. There's a lot of controversy around how the land was cleared, what was on the land before. the politics around it, and the construction of the building. And it's important to understand that part to understand the other things that happen in present day with this building. But in its present day, we are meeting a very dilapidated, worn down building. And it no longer is this jewel. It's more like this giant eyesore that has the aroma of garbage stench. And inside this building, we have 10 apartments, 10 tenants, families that we get to know throughout the course of this novel. And these characters, these tenants, are all very different. They are peculiar, eccentric, lively, human again. They just are like, yeah, I know that person, or I know this type of person. They are in different stages of their lives, so we have a mix of ages and also different life circumstances. There's some with families and kids, there's some that are single, so it just varies. And so part of what we have after you get through the beginnings of chapters of the book is that we start to have chapters focus on particular apartments, and the families that live there and just their daily lives. And I found it to be really interesting, an interesting way to get to learn more about Istanbul, especially modern day Istanbul, and just the things that they have to navigate in their life, and the relationships that they have, not only with each other, like neighbors to neighbors, and how they have to share space, but also the dynamics within the personal families as well is really interesting. One of the things that I appreciate about how this is written, it's kind of like little vignettes. I'm an actress, and so I was like, wow, this would make great scenes or great monologues. My mind kept going there because it really lends itself to that in the way that it's written. So I did not do a review on this book. I don't think that I will, but I would say that it's, if you want to learn more about Istanbul, if you want to learn more about Turkey, if you want to, just be in that part of the world, I think that this is a good book to do it. The only kind of thing that I struggled with is that it just at some points was really wordy. I think that this novel could have been accomplished with a lot less words. But other than that, I enjoyed reading it, and I probably will read more from this author. She's won a lot of awards for her writing, and I totally understand why. Okay, the next book I'm so excited to talk about. I could not wait to read this. I was thrilled that I could read it during my birthday month because it's one of my favorite authors, and that is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and her novel Dream Count. We have been waiting. We have been waiting for her to come out with another novel. I think it's been about 12 years, but the wait was well worth it. I am going to do a book review on this, gathering my thoughts. I'm actually in a couple of book clubs, and we're going to be talking about this, so I'm kind of waiting for that. So be on the lookout of that. So I'm not going to go too in depth here, but basically, this is a story that has it's set, the background setting of this is during COVID, and really the kind of beginnings of COVID. It is a story that follows four women. These women are connected to each other by the main character, and who is named. People kind of like, is this story is she the main character? Because the name sounds familiar, but it's her name is Chiamaka. And so Chiamaka is a travel writer. She is comes from a wealthy family, and she's well educated, and she has her best friend, her cousin, and also her maid, who's also a dear friend. And it's these four women whose lives that we follow and the friendships that we follow as they navigate space as women on different continents and countries, as they navigate dealing with societal expectations, especially those that are attached to African women, as they navigate relationships with parents, relationships with with lovers and pursuit of stability of relationships, with children. There's just so much. And with their just friendship dynamic. This is a woman's novel. This is a woman's novel. It's so good. It's the storytelling is so good. It was delicious. I described this novel as delicious. I sent a text to my sister and some friends and I said, this novel is delicious. You have to read it. So again, I'm going to do more. I'm really looking forward to coming back and sharing my deep thoughts and more about the book and so on and so forth. So be on the lookout at that. But in the meantime, you guys, if you have not, do yourself a treat and get Dream Count. There's also, she did a robust book tour. She was everywhere, and I actually got to see her with my sister and my daughter and my niece speak at the Six and I Club in DC, and it was such a happy moment. It was actually how I kicked off my birthday celebration. So it was a really, really happy moment, and she's just so wonderful. For those of you all who don't know this author, you might have heard about her or seen her on, she did a TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story. A lot of people kind of recognize her from that. So that's the same person. And I might link that in the show notes below as well. So Dream Count, really enjoyed that one. It's probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year by far. Okay, transitioning to a book that was not a great read for me. In Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. This book takes place in the future. It is a sci-fi fantasy book, and it takes place on a spaceship, a huge spaceship called the Matilda, that is organized by decks, like via the alphabet. So deck A, deck Z, so on and so forth. And this world is kind of set up like colonial South plantation life that will help you to understand how the people were organized. So at the very top of the alphabet in the upper decks, you had the privileged people, white people. They experienced leisure and all the good stuff that the ship had to offer. And then the lower decks were the workers, literally the field hands. Each deck, though, had its own kind of unique cultures, dialects, and customs. And so there was a lot of variety and texture that the author put into this. And I could tell that the author spent a lot of time building out the world. And it's such a big world that I think the harm of it was that it was too much world to fit into one book and it gets convoluted. I think that that's kind of like my general sense. And it was hard for me to make an emotional connection to the main character, who was Aster, or to any of the other, characters in the book. At the end of it, I just was like, my care was not as there. This is River Solomon's debut novel, and I think it was like a great start. I just think that it could have used a couple of more edits to have conversations and ask questions, and then to kind of, make things a little bit more just solid in this work. But I do appreciate fully the effort, and I appreciate the artistry that they yielded. The novel is focused on our protagonist, Aster, who is a lower deck member on this ship and has lived there, born and raised and lived there all of her life. The ship has been in space for 325 years. We know that there's something that happened on planet Earth, although we don't know what it was. But whatever it was, there was enough warning that a ship could be built and stocked and people could be selected to live on the ship. And Aster is a neurodivergent character who is very different. She's a healer, and she is bold and tenacious, and she I liked her character. There's a lot there with her, and she has certain privileges because she is able to heal people and perform surgeries and kind of be like a doctor or a doctor's assistant. one of the things that Aster starts to get curious about when we meet her is she wants to learn more about her mother. And that sets her on a journey. Her mother has passed like when she was young, and it sets her on a journey with her friend Gazelle and the surgeon as well, this character called the surgeon, to start trying to find information about her mom because her mom left journals and there was written in code. And with the help of her friend, she starts to break the code. And in pursuing more information about her mother, wanting to understand the truth about her death and her circumstances, they also stumble upon some truths about the ship and the conditions that are happening on the ship and lots in the power dynamics that are on the ship. And so there's a lot here. I did like the idea of this book. I think that there is a great book inside of here. I just don't know if that great book was able to, shine in this way. So yeah, if you're interested in this, it is heavy. It's a heavy read. It deals with a lot of triggering stuff. So just trigger warnings of just harm, self harm, and of sexual abuse. Just to kind of give you a heads up with that. But check this out if you're interested in it. Again, I had go into it in more detail in my book review. I will leave the link to that in the show notes below as well, so you can listen to what I have to say if you're interested in more. Okay, next on my list is Butter. Don't you love this cover? I'm a fan of it. I had no idea what Butter was about. Butter is a book that was just like a date, like a mystery date. Sometimes I will go into bookstores and I will just pick up a book totally based on the cover. I don't know anything about the author, anything about the book, and I buy it and I read. And so this was the book that I picked up for my March mystery read. And on the cover, this says that it is a novel of food and murder. And I was like, ooh, we're going to get a thriller. And it is not a thriller. I do not know why it is categorized like that. I mean, maybe it is just because more people like pick it up and buy it. So from a marketing standpoint, like maybe that works because it worked for me. It's one of the reasons why it drew me to the book. But what you find here is more literary fiction. I think that's the genre that I would put it in. And this book is about Rika. She is a Japanese woman in about her 20s. She's a journalist and she is in a very male dominated career. And she's a modern woman. And she's trying to advance her career and, do a story that's really going to put her name on the map. And one of the ideas that she has is to try to get an interview with inmate Kaji, who is in jail waiting trial for the suspicious murder of 3 of her lovers, older wealthy men, who dated her. And then after they dated her, they magically turned up dead. And so she is, has been arrested for suspicion of murder. One of the things that fascinated Tokyo about this case, and this case, you guys, is actually based on a real life case in Japan that happened. That's where this storyline was inspired, what it was inspired by. What really struck people wasn't the fact that you had a woman who was serial killer killing her lovers, but this woman was overweight and then not as attractive. And they were like, how is this overweight woman attracting and keeping the attention of these men to the point where they were falling in love with her and they all wanted to marry her? And Kaji has kind of made a vow that she would not do any interviews with journalists, and Rika has to figure out a way how to get in to see her. Kaji, in addition to dating these men, she also had a food blog where she wrote such delicious descriptions of food. You guys, this book will make you hungry. I think that's the best part of the book are the food descriptions. And so Rika's best friend, Raiko, suggests that she write to her and ask her to send her recipe. And that's the doorway into Rika being able to spend time with this woman, and they start to develop when she would meet her in the jail detention center, and they start to develop this very weird relationship, friendship. Is it toxic? Is it healthy? It's just different. It's just different. It's something like you can't quite put your finger on it, and I really liked that aspect of this book. But through Rika's relationship with Kaji, she starts to discover different parts of herself because Kaji has her go out and do these food dates with herself. She'll say, go here and eat that. Go home and make this rice and put this butter on it and do all this. And so Rika, a woman who was food repressed, that's kind of what she came to understand was just in her culture. And she also didn't cook. She wasn't one to like take the time to cook a meal for herself or for her boyfriend. She starts to have a new relationship with food, and it opens her up to question things about society and about the pressures on women, about women's relationship with food and appearances and the health of that. And it just unravels into family and messaging and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot that she discovers about herself as she's discovering about this person. There are some twists and turns in this book. I give a full book review about it. I will leave the show note. I will leave that in the show notes below if you're interested in learning my thoughts about this. But yeah, Butter, written by Asako Yuzuki, translated by Polly Barton. I just want to say a word that I think the translation in this was really good. I was not distracted at all by how it was translated. So it was not a problem to me at all. So Butter. Okay, last on my list, you guys, is actually a nonfiction book. This is a book that my husband read a couple of years ago, and it was one that I knew that I wanted to get to. I think I started it in February, and I was able to wrap it up in March. And it was really, really good. I'm just shuffling my pile of books here so I can show you it. And it is called How to Do the Work, Recognize Your Patterns, Heal from Your Past, and Create Yourself by Dr. Nicole LePera. And she is a holistic psychologist. And before reading this book, I never heard of a holistic psychologist. So I just found the concept of that really interesting. Books are falling off my lap. They are not cooperating with me. I have like a lap full of books here. So one of the reasons why it took me like 2 months to read this book is not because it's a hard read. I actually like the way that she wrote this. I found it to be really accessible. It wasn't filled with scientific jargon that just kind of like goes over your head and it's like, what? What is that? What does that mean? I didn't have to have like a dictionary beside me to figure it out. So I really appreciated that. It was written for the average person, and I like that. I also like the fact that it wasn't filled with a whole bunch of antidotes. I don't like that about nonfiction works. I know you're going to tell me a story through an example of meet Ted, so and so and so and so and so, but it needs to not be overhanded. Like, I think that she had just the right amount of stories to demonstrate the points that she was making. And so I also appreciated that. The reason why it took me 2 months is because this gave me a lot to think about and I didn't want to rush it. I worked my way through this book. I worked my way through it like chapter by chapter. And I really did want to apply some of the learning that I was encountering in this book. And so each chapter ends with do the work. Whatever the chapter is on, you have to do the work and you have different steps that she says to do. I really like this because oftentimes when you read like nonfiction work, they're giving you concepts and they're unpacking things, but they don't necessarily say, okay, now here's how you can translate these things that I've given you into practical, tangible steps that you can start applying in your life. And so I really liked that format, that we weren't left hanging or like, okay, so what do I do now? I'm really excited to do it. What do I do now? She actually just gave it to you. So each chapter, I don't know if you can see, this is an example of a chapter, ends with do the work. My finger needs to go that way. And yeah, it just breaks it down into different steps for you to do. So that's why it took me time to do it, because I really was just working through the steps and allowing myself to do so at a gentle pace. I just want to take a moment to read some of the chapter names so you can get a feel of the types of things that she talks about. One, she does give an introduction to holistic psychology. So she does explain what holistic psychology is. And I found that to be really helpful because, again, I did not I did not know about this. And so, just reading from her work, holistic psychology is a revolutionary approach to mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. So, it is that combination of the whole person and those aspects coming together as one. It's a movement of empowerment that's committed to the daily practice of creating your own wellness by breaking negative patterns, healing from your past, and creating your conscious self. And so, chapter titles are The New Theory of Trauma, Trauma Body, Mind Body Healing Practices, Meet Your Inner Child, Ego Stories. I really did enjoy this chapter of Ego Stories. Boundaries, which is always important to learn about. Reparenting. This was a really interesting concept to me, and I found the exercises really helpful in this one. Emotional maturity, and the last chapter is interdependence. So if you're looking for a work that can help you just learn different parts of yourself, or help you to kind of make sense of why do I do the things that I do, or to even discover what are my patterns and to be able to evaluate them, I strongly recommend this. I definitely will come back to this book because it's one that I don't think you need to read it or do it once. There's just so much richness, and I think every time I come back to it, I'm coming back a different person. And I definitely would want to do it when I read it again with someone. I might see if my husband will read it along with me, because I think reading it with someone in time, you just have a partner to come to talk about it with, and I think that would be really a neat thing to do with this work. So, How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. Highly recommend this one. Really did enjoy reading it. And it just, I think, set myself up to think about myself in new ways, especially as I was turning a year better. Okay, guys, that is it. I've been talking for quite a while. I got through it without my allergies flaring up, so I'm really excited about that. Please let me know if you've read any of these books. I would love to know what you think about them and how you how you experience them, especially the books that I was challenged by. I would love to know. So leave those in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. Help this channel grow. The more likes we have and the more people that subscribe, it lets the algorithm know that, hey, we exist and we're important over here. So I thank you in advance for that. And until next time, guys, I hope that you all enjoy yourself, that you stay safe, stay sane, and as always, that you all stay reading. Bye.